Hey, Olive, Arlo, and Frank. Grandpop losing his voice here in the living room in Jack's Beach. So we're picking up today in the Net Bible, Reader's Edition, Genesis chapter 30. In chapter 29, we see we saw that Laban tricked Jacob into marrying Leah, who he didn't love. And then he had to work 7 weeks rather, for Rachel, who he did love. He had 2 wives. Leah had kids, Rachel didn't. Rachel gave him 4 sons. And the last of those sons was Judah. King David's going to come through the tribe of Judah. Jesus is going to come through the tribe of Judah. Both Mary and Joseph are from the line of David. Anyway, chapter 30 says, when Rachel saw that she could, and also in this chapter, we're going to see Rachel start to have kids, and handmaidens, or whatever they call them in this, servant women have kids. And we're going to see Jacob grow his flock and totally get under Laban's skin. When Rachel saw that she could not give Jacob children, she became jealous of her sister. She said to Jacob, "Give me children, or I'll die." Now, Frank, you already know this, but it takes 2 to tango. I'll just leave it at that. You other 2 kids, someday your folks are going to have the birds and the bees discussion with you. And you'll go like, "Oh, I remember that. Grandpa told me that it takes 2 to tango." Jacob became furious and exclaimed, "Am I in the place of God, who has kept you from having children?" She replied, "Here is my servant Bilhah. Have sexual relations with her, so that she can bear children for me, and I can have a family through her." We see back when Abraham and Sarah conspired to have a child. Wasn't what God had planned. But this is, I don't know if I want to say, "Oh, this is God's plan." Ultimately, it is. But this is legitimate for her to say, "Look, I can't have kids. I already know that Jacob can produce kids, but he hasn't produced kids with me." So in that culture, you could give a servant to your husband and say, "Okay, get her pregnant and have a child, and I'll raise that child as my child." Have sexual relations with her so that she can bear children for me, and I can have a family through her. So Rachel gave him her servant Bilhah as a wife, and Jacob had marital relations with her. Bilhah became pregnant and gave Jacob a son. Then Rachel said, "God has vindicated me. He has responded to my prayer and given me a son." That is why she named him Dan. So each of these names has to do with something that the mother, well, Rachel in this instance, even though it's Bilhah's kid, They name them after something that they believe God is saying. Bilhah, Rachel's servant, became pregnant again. So apparently Jacob was like, yeah, that's a good thing. And gave Jacob another son. Then Rachel said, I have fought a desperate struggle with my sister, but I have won. So she named him Naphtali. When Leah saw that she had stopped having children, she gave her servant Zilpah to Jacob as a wife. Soon Leah's servant Zilpah gave Jacob a son. Leah said, how fortunate. So she named him Gad. Gad! Gee whiz, Gad! So everybody's having babies, and Jacob's like, it's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it. Then Leah's servant Zilpah gave Jacob another son. Leah said, how happy I am, for women will call me happy. So she named him Asher. At the time of the wheat harvest, Reuben went out and found some mandrake plants in a field and brought them to his mother Leah. Rachel said to Leah, give me some of your son's mandrakes. Now, mandrakes either do or are purported to have not exotic. What I can't remember the word. Like you take it and you can have kids, can want to have sex, that kind of thing. But Leah replied, wasn't it enough that you've taken away my husband? Would you take away my son's mandrakes too? All right, Rachel said. He may sleep with you tonight in exchange for your son's mandrakes. When Jacob came in from the fields that evening, Leah went out to meet him and said, you must sleep with me because I have paid for your services with my son's mandrakes. So Jacob's sort of like a gigolo in his own family. People were bartering for Jacob's services, we'll call them. So he had marital relations with her that night. God paid attention to Leah. She became pregnant and gave Jacob a son for the 5th time. Then Leah said, God has granted me a reward because I gave my servant to my husband as a wife. So she named him Issachar. Leah became pregnant again and gave Jacob a son for the 6th time. Then Leah said, God has given me a good gift. Now my husband will honor me because I have given him 6 sons. So she named him Zebulun. After that, she gave birth to a daughter and named her Dinah. Although we would pronounce it Dinah, but I believe in Hebrew it would be Dinah. Then God took note of Rachel. He paid attention to her and enabled her to become pregnant. She became pregnant and gave birth to a son. Then she said, God has taken away my shame. She named him Joseph, saying, may the Lord give me yet another son. Greedy, although this is her first kid. After all this, so far, I think there's 10 kids, 10 sons. And then, and Joseph, so there's 11. After Rachel had given birth to Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, "Send me on my way so that I can go home to my own country. Let me take my wives and my children, whom I have acquired by working for you. Then I'll depart, because you know how hard I've worked for you." Laban's just going to let him go? Let's see. But Laban said to him, "If I have found favor in your sight, please stay here, for I have learned by divination that the Lord has blessed me on account of you." He added, "Just name your wages. I'll pay whatever you want." "You know how I have worked for you," Jacob replied, "and how well your livestock have fared under my care. Indeed, you had little before I arrived, but now your possessions have increased many times over. The Lord has blessed you wherever I worked. But now, how long must it be before I do something for my own family too?" So I'm here blessing you, but I got my own family. I got all these kids. I got 11 kids, 12 kids, because he's got Dina, and we we have no idea if it was. Eventually, it'll be 12 brothers and one sister. There may have been other sisters. So Laban asked, "What should I give you?" "You don't need to give me a thing," Jacob replied. "But if you agree to this one condition, I will continue to care for your flocks and protect them. Let me walk among all your flocks today and remove from them every speckled or spotted sheep, every dark-colored lamb, and the spotted or speckled goats. These animals will be my wages. My integrity will testify for me later on." This is the heel catcher. He's the thief of birthrights and the guy that wore goat skins to show that he was his brother Harry. And he's like, "Yeah, my integrity will speak for me." "When you come to verify that I've taken only the wages we agreed on, if I have in my possession any goat that is not speckled or spotted, or any sheep that is not dark-colored, it will be considered stolen." "Agreed," said Laban. "It will be as you say." So Laban's sitting here and going like, "Yeah, this is going to work for me. I'm going to make out like a bandit, like a bandito." So that day Laban removed the male goats that were streaked or spotted, all the female goats that were speckled or spotted, all that had any white on them, and all the dark-colored lambs, and put them in the care of his sons. Then he separated them from Jacob by a 3-day journey, while Jacob was taking care of the rest of Laban's flock. So he's making sure that no shenanigans are going to happen here. But Jacob took fresh-cut branches from poplar, almond, and plane trees. He made white streaks by peeling them, making the white inner wood in the branches visible. Then he set up the peeled branches in all the watering troughs where the flocks came to drink. He set up the branches in front of the flocks when they were in heat and came to drink. When the sheep mated in front of the branches, they gave birth to young that were streaked or speckled or spotted. So if they're just pure color, Laban gets to keep them. Any that are speckled or spotted or streaked, Jacob gets to keep them. And he got to take out all the speckled, spotted, and streaked ones. So they're not even in there. But by this stick trick, And I've never heard a good explanation of what this is. Like, there's no scientist that goes, oh yeah, like I know how to do that stick thing where they mate in front of a stick and they come out spotted or speckled. Jacob removed these lambs, but he made the rest of the flock face the streaked and completely dark-colored animals in Laban's flock. So he made separate flocks for himself and did not mix them with Laban's flocks. When the stronger females were in heat, Jacob would set up the branches in the troughs in front of the flock, so they would mate near the branches. But if the animals were weaker, he did not set the branches there, so the weaker animals ended up belonging to Laban and the stronger animals to Jacob. In this way, Jacob became extremely prosperous. He owned large flocks, male and female servants, camels, and donkeys. Hey, peace out.